This is Pedro. We're at San Francisco State University, Tuesday, May 21st, 2013. There's a very important couple of events that happened last week. Would you say what happened on those 2 days?
Last Wednesday, the San Francisco commune was raided by SWAT team and SFPD in riot gear and machine guns. 3 people were arrested at an abandoned church on 200 Broad Street that had been taken over by activists to create a community center and a kitchen and a garden for the neighboring community of Ocean View, the lower income neighborhood with a lot of African American and Asian presence. The church had been abandoned for over a decade and was dilapidated and uninhabitable. When activists went in there over a year ago, there were needles all over, human feces. It was completely trashed. It was used as a drug den by a lot of people from the area. So activists took it upon themselves to open up. We believe that housing is a human right and any vacant buildings need to have people living in there. There's estimates that in San Francisco there's over 30,000 vacant housing units and 6,000 to 10,000 homeless people, so there's no reason why anyone should be living on the street. There's at least one house for every homeless person. You can have multiple people living in a house, so there's no reason why anyone should be on the cold streets every day of their life when there are enough resources to provide for them. So over a year ago, activists who branched off from Occupy San Francisco went in there and opened it up as the SF commune. They planted a beautiful garden, opened up a kitchen. Over 1,000 people came through that space, and 350 to 500 people actually stayed there. At any given moment, there could be from 10 to 30 people to 50 people staying there. The place had been watched by police for a long time. A lot of police officers had been patrolling. There's been incidents with police that came in and tried to evict everyone, but they never had any proper paperwork. Last Wednesday, they came in and evicted everyone and actually had an attorney's notice, so there was nothing we could do about it. All the people who were living in there were displaced and had nowhere to go. So a few of them, I'd say 8 of them, came here to SF State because they're friends with a few students here, and they were invited to come hang out for the day in the dorm rooms at Mary Ward Hall. The people from the SF commune were just hanging out, having fun in the dorms when a few of them decided to go to the designated smoking area, which is right by the dorm, to go smoke a cigarette. Police officers approached them and started harassing them, asking why they were there. They told them to state their business on the campus, asked them their names. The people involved chose to exercise their constitutional rights and not speak to the police because they were doing absolutely nothing wrong. They walked away and went back into the dorm room. The police followed them in there and tried to grab one of them, and an altercation broke out. The individual kind of resisted, but it really did not warrant the brutality that the police executed upon him.
Would you describe how he resisted? You say he kind of resisted.
He was putting on dead weight, like he would, and which is something I would do if I was getting brutalized by police. I wouldn't go quietly. He was also screaming, I'm a guest, I was invited here, why are you doing this?
Were you there?
I did not witness this, but I was on campus when this happened. I was hanging out with them and I left briefly.
You've seen the video, and that's absolutely well documented, everything you're saying on that video.
I've talked to over 50 people about this who were present or around the area. I've talked to police officers, talked to the paramedics and the news people who also saw this, and they tried to detain him and made a bunch of noise. So the other people who were hanging out in the dorm room came out and started dialogue with the police, asking why he was being beaten, why they were doing this to him, if they were invited there. And then more police officers come storming out of the elevators, telling them to shut up or get back, which makes them even more angry.
Makes who very?
The people who were watching, the SF commune activists who were watching this happen, watching their friends get beat. And the police proceeded to try to detain them, and they beat all 5 of them. You can see in the video one of the individuals getting jabbed in the ribs with a flashlight. You can see 4 police officers pile on top of a woman who is maybe 100, 110 pounds.
This
So-
was all SFPD.
Yeah.
And the beating was it done with flashlights or batons or both?
In the video, it was with flashlights, and they were roughed up, like being thrown to the ground. But also, one of the individuals was taken into a paddy wagon. 2 officers went in there. 2 of them covered up the windows, and we could hear his screams from about a block away. We could hear the batons hitting the sides of the paddy wagon, hitting the metal, and just him screaming. And the officers exited the vehicle, and the screams stopped. So,
Did you observe that?
So we believe that he was badly beaten behind the scenes by police. His name is Carlos.
What about the guy who was being beaten in the dorm?
With the flashlight?
Yeah.
His name is Baba.
Baba?
Yes.
Okay.
That's his nickname. Then all of them were taken away. I've spoken to them from jail, and they say that they were also beat on the way there. They were all taken to the hospital, but they didn't receive any medical attention. They also told me that they were beaten at the hospital.
San Francisco General?
Yeah,
Beaten by whom at the
by
hospital?
the police. I spoke to one of my friends from jail, and he was crying over the pain. He told me that he thinks his ribs might be broken. We don't think they're broken, they're just very badly sprained. He told me that his wrists are so swollen that he can't move his arms or write anything. It could be the cuffs, could be the force that they use while trying to move him around. There's also a video of him being shoved against a paddy wagon and then eventually thrown to the ground
And where did that happen?
at the parking lot outside the dorms. They were very badly beaten. Once they were in jail, all of them requested medical attention, which they never received.
Why'd they take him to the hospital then? I mean, it sounds like they were beaten at the hospital, but didn't receive any medical attention there.
It was just probably a show to make it seem like they cared.
Where are they in jail?
They're at 850 Bryant.
County jail in San Francisco County.
Yeah.
You've named only 2 people. There's a list of other people who are in jail, and there's also a woman.
Yeah, there's 2 women involved, Tanya and Melissa, and the 3 males are Carlos, Baba, and Johnny.
And Johnny? So what happened to Tanya and Melissa? I saw a video of a woman who it really looked like a rape. It was described like it looked like that, and it really did. Which one, was it Tanya or
That was
Melissa?
Tanya.
That was Tanya. Do you know what happened in that incident?
I haven't heard too much about that.
Do you know where she is now?
They're all at 850 Bryant. What they were charged with are completely trumped up charges. At first, they were held on $110,000 bail. Their charges were conspiracy to riot, battery.
How did they justify battery when they were the people being battered?
I have no idea. Conspiracy to riot, obstruction of justice, battery, trespassing, and lynching, which means de-arresting.
Lynching means what?
It means to try to de-arrest someone who's in custody. Yeah, the same word that we use to denounce the hanging of African Americans is a word for de-arrest now. It's ridiculous.
So in other words, lynching means your friends are trying to help you. Is that correct?
I don't believe that they even tried to de-arrest anyone. They were all too badly beaten and being brutalized to have the chance to do that. If someone tries to free someone from the oppressive hands of a police officer, it is called lynching. The
Like
only charge that might even be slightly justified, I believe, is trespassing. That really does not warrant any physical police interaction. All it is a citation, usually. In San Francisco, if you're trespassing, by law, you must be asked to leave, and if you do not comply, then they can arrest you.
How do you see the sort of justification for trespassing?
Even though they were invited as guests to the dorm room, the university claims that all guests must be signed in, which is something that nobody does. I know plenty of students here, when they invite guests, they do not sign anyone in. The resident assistant do not even require it. If you bring in a bunch of guests behind you, they don't even ask you to sign them in. And many of the RAs I spoke to had no idea that was even a rule.